This video was made possible by Dr. AI Academy.
While most sleep, others learn.
Your AI can work while you rest.
They're learning how to work less and earn more. They started. You can too.
Click the link below to join us. Royal Dark Secrets presents Wu Zetian, China's deadliest woman. Before we unveil her shocking story, hit that like button and tell us where you're watching from. It helps us know who's brave enough to dive into these secrets. Now, let's begin. Pull up a chair and grab some wine. Preferably not from a vat Empress Wu Zetian used to drown her enemies, because today we're talking about the original girl boss, the OG influencer who literally broke the internet before the internet existed. Her name is Wu Zetian, and she's about to serve you the hottest tea in all of Chinese history. Piping hot and guaranteed to scald anyone who thinks women can't run empires. Wu Zetian is the only woman in 4 millennia to rule China as emperor. Not some participation trophy empress consort bullshit where you smile pretty and produce heirs like a royal baby factory, but actual, legitimate, dragon throne-sitting emperor with the kind of power that makes any modern CEO look like a middle manager at a suburban Wendy's. And honey, she didn't get there by sliding into DMs, posting thirst traps, or asking nicely if maybe, pretty please, could she have some power. She got there the old-fashioned way, through strategic baby murder, systematic family elimination, and a body count that would make a Call of Duty player weep with envy while questioning their life choices. Picture this. It's 624 CE. The Tang Dynasty is having its golden age moment like that one friend who peaked in high school but actually deserved it. And Wu is born in the middle of nowhere, Lizhu, which is basically ancient China's equivalent of a suburb so forgettable that even GPS would give up and suggest you turn around. Her parents named her Wu Zhao, meaning bright, which was either incredibly prophetic or the most accidentally accurate prediction in parenting history. Like naming your kid future serial killer and having them become a tax attorney. Her dad, Wu Shihuo, was basically the Jeff Bezos of timber, except with more axes and fewer labor violations, probably. Started with nothing but wood-cutting equipment and the kind of entrepreneurial delusions that either make you rich or get you committed, and somehow ended up as one of Emperor Gaozu's founding ministers. He looked at trees and saw Amazon warehouses before Amazon was even a twinkle in some future tech bro's eye. He looked at his daughter and saw potential, which, in 7th century China, was like a unicorn spotting another unicorn while both were riding Bigfoot through a field of 4-leaf clovers. Mom was Lady Yang, old money aristocracy with a pedigree longer than a CVS receipt and twice as impressive. She married down financially, but up in raw ambition. Like a trust fund baby, deciding to date a startup founder who promises they're definitely going to disrupt something. Think Meghan Markle, but with more embroidery skills, a higher tolerance for political assassination, and the kind of family connections that could make problems disappear faster than evidence at a crime scene. She taught Wu the most important lesson of her life. Smile sweetly while sharpening your knife, because the blade that cuts deepest is the one they never see coming. Mother-daughter bonding activities in their house included poison identification workshops, which court lady needs to disappear, game nights, and advanced courses in making enemies vanish while maintaining plausible deniability. But here's where Wu Zetian's origin story gets spicier than a ghost pepper eating contest. Dad treated her like the son he never had, instead of the dowry expense he got stuck with, which in ancient China was like choosing to invest in cryptocurrency instead of buying a reliable Honda. While other girls were learning 47 ways to arrange chrysanthemums without looking threatening, because apparently flowers were considered weapons of mass seduction, Wu was studying military tactics and memorizing the weaknesses of every minister in court like she was collecting trading cards, except the cards were people, and the game was life or death. Her childhood was more like the Game of Thrones with training wheels, if training wheels were made of poisoned daggers and political intrigue. By age 10, Wu could write poetry that would make grown men weep actual tears of beauty and existential crisis, forge documents that looked more authentic than the originals, a skill that would definitely get her hired at any modern corporation, and spot a liar faster than you can swipe left on a dating app after seeing entrepreneur and dog dad in the same bio. She wasn't just educated, she was weaponized with knowledge, gift-wrapped in silk like the world's most dangerous present, and ready to deploy with the precision of a guided missile and the subtlety of a sledgehammer to the face. At 14, Wu entered the palace as a concubine for Emperor Taizong, which was basically like being accepted to Harvard, but for professional gold digging, except the curriculum included advanced backstabbing and your roommates were literally trying to eliminate you. She was a freshman in the Ivy League of Power, surrounded by 3,000 women competing for attention, like it was Black Friday, and there was only one discounted Louis Vuitton bag. Imagine the Kardashian house. Multiply the drama by the population of a small country. Add actual life or death stakes instead of just Twitter feuds. And you've got the imperial harem. 3,000 women competing for one man's attention. The math wasn't mathing. The odds were worse than winning the lottery, but the desperation was so thick you could cut it with a jewel-encrusted dagger. Her official title was Kai Ren, which meant talented person. Cute, right? What it really meant was, you have the potential to get pregnant and maybe not die in the process, which could theoretically make you important someday. It also came with the unspoken subtitle of, you're pretty enough to notice, but not important enough to assassinate yet. So enjoy this brief window of relative safety. The other girls came in with strategies straight out of a teen rom-com, written by someone who'd never met an actual teenager. Be the prettiest, good, luck with that genetic lottery. Cry at strategically convenient moments, the medieval equivalent of posting sad selfies for attention. Or, Wu's personal favorite to observe, accidentally trip and fall in front of the emperor while wearing something that left less to the imagination than a Victoria's Secret catalog, and somehow made it look like a complete coincidence. Then, Emperor Taizong died in 649, and suddenly, Wu Zetian was facing the ancient equivalent of being ghosted by the entire power structure. Except instead of just losing followers, she could lose her head. Palace rules said childless concubines had to become nuns, which was basically ancient China's version of being sent to live on a farm upstate, except the farm was spiritual spinster life forever. Most women would have accepted this fate, shaved their heads, and started the Tang Dynasty equivalent of a lifestyle blog called Buddhist Babe, Finding Inner Peace After Your Sugar Daddy Dies. But Wu? Oh, she was like, nope, I'll just marry his son. because apparently her backup plan was more bulletproof than a presidential motorcade and twice as scandalous. And that's exactly what she did. Well, kind of. In the same way that kind of robbing a bank means you only took the money but left the pens. With the death of his father, Li Zhi became Emperor Gaozong. And Wu Zetian was not about to let a little thing like death, religious vows, and massive social taboos get in the way of her career trajectory. So Wu patiently waited in the monastery like a spider in Prada, spinning webs and perfecting her "I'm definitely devoted to Buddha, but also available for imperial duties" look. She didn't waste years of her life and all that effort babysitting the prince, only to rot in Ganye Temple, living as a Buddhist nun for the rest of her life. That would be like getting a Harvard MBA and then deciding to become a professional couch warmer. Eventually, Li Zhi came to visit the temple, probably thinking he was just doing his filial duty. But Wu found a way to rekindle their fire faster than a Boy Scout with premium matches. Because there's no man who can resist Wu Zetian when she's operating at full power. She had more game than a Las Vegas casino and twice the odds of winning. And guess who got recalled from nun training faster than you can say constitutional monarchy, or maybe celibacy isn't for me after all? Wu, of course, because apparently God helps those who help themselves to imperial thrones. Officially, she was brought back to serve his wife, Empress Wang, in what was basically the world's most dangerous internship program. Unofficially, Wu was about to become the key player in the messiest love triangle in imperial history. Like The Bachelor meets Game of Thrones. Except the roses were poisoned and the final ceremony involved actual beheadings. Here's the tea that's hotter than a palace fire. Empress Wang had a massive problem, and her name was Consort Xiao Shufei. While Wang was sitting pretty on her throne, producing absolutely zero heirs, basically the imperial equivalent of a broken vending machine, Xiao had been busy being fertile as hell, popping out 2 sons and a daughter with Emperor Gaozong like she was running a royal baby factory. Worse yet, Xiao's oldest son was already being groomed as the next crown prince, which meant Wang was watching her workplace nemesis get promoted while she was still struggling to complete her basic job requirements of produce male heir, don't die. The Empress was facing the ancient equivalent of being replaced by a younger, more productive employee who actually knew how to use the office printer. The Emperor never liked Wang and had about as much romantic interest in her as a tax audit. But Xiao, she had the Emperor's attention, the imperial offspring, and the inside track to becoming the next Empress. Empress Wang was basically holding a participation trophy while Xiao was collecting actual trophies, and everyone could see which way the wind was blowing in this imperial weather forecast. So when Wu Zetian showed up fresh from nun training, looking like a reformed bad girl with a mysterious past and excellent references, Empress Wang saw an opportunity for some strategic chaos. Her brilliant plan? Use Wu Zetian as a weapon against Xiao. Push her into Gaozong's bed like a beautiful Trojan horse. Let her distract him from his baby mama and watch Xiao's influence crumble like a stale fortune cookie. It was like hiring a consultant to solve your office politics problem, except the consultant was Wu Zetian. And she doesn't just solve problems. She becomes the CEO, fires everyone, and redecorates the entire building. The Empress actually encouraged Wu's relationship with her husband, thinking she was playing puppet master in the world's most dangerous game of matchmaker. She was basically that friend who sets you up on a date thinking they're being helpful, not realizing they just introduced their replacement and handed over their entire life. Poor Wang thought she was using Wu as a pawn to eliminate Xiao, like hiring a hitman to take out your rival. What she didn't realize was that Wu Zetian doesn't do supporting roles. She's always the main character, and everyone else is just extras waiting to be written off the show. Little did dear Empress Wang know that Wu Zetian wasn't just planning to weaken Xiao's position like some kind of medieval corporate spy. She was planning to eliminate both of them and take the whole damn empire for herself. Because why settle for middle management when you can own the entire company? Wang thought she was hiring a hitman. She actually summoned the Grim Reaper with a business degree and a 5-year plan. The real issue for the Empress was mathematical, and math is a cruel mistress. Gaozong needed an heir, and Wang's uterus was apparently on permanent vacation in Cancun. In Imperial China, a childless empress was like a smartphone without internet. Technically still an empress, but not fulfilling the core function of the device, and probably about to be upgraded to a newer model. Wu got pregnant almost immediately because she understood that in a world where women's primary value was reproduction, pregnancy was both currency and leverage. Basically, ancient China's version of cryptocurrency, except it actually produced something useful. Her growing belly was a hostile takeover bid, wrapped in maternity wear and accessorized with morning sickness. In 652, Wu Zetian delivered her first son, Li Hong, which should have been game over for everyone else. But considering that Xiao already had her oldest son positioned for the throne like a chess piece, one move away from checkmate, Wu had to work harder and smarter than a Silicon Valley startup trying to disrupt the imperial succession industry. So 2 years later, she got pregnant again and gave birth to a baby girl. And here comes the part that makes her the headline act in the historical true crime Hall of Fame. The baby incident that would make Netflix executives weep with joy. Picture this. It's been about a month since Wu delivered her daughter, and Empress Wang decides to pay her a courtesy visit. You know, the kind of visit where your boss drops by your desk to check how you're doing, but really, they're looking for ways to undermine you, find dirt, or catch you browsing social media instead of working. The moment Wu saw the Empress walking into her chambers, she realized she was looking at the perfect opportunity, like finding a $20 bill on the ground, except the $20 was worth an entire empire. What happened next was Oscar-worthy performance art meets strategic assassination, meets the kind of calculated evil that would make Machiavelli himself slow clap. Minutes after the Empress left, Wu strangled her own infant daughter. Yes, you heard that right. And no, there's no euphemistic way to put it. And then started screaming like she was auditioning for the lead role in medieval CSI Palace Edition, with a side of Law and Order Ancient China unit. When the guards came running, she strategically accused Wang of killing her baby. Because after all, who's gonna prove otherwise? It was her word against the Empress's, and Wu had home field advantage plus better acting skills. But Wu didn't stop at just framing the Empress. Because why eliminate one enemy when you can destroy two with the efficiency of a corporate downsizing? She spun this tragedy into the conspiracy theory of the century, claiming that Wang and Xiao had plotted together to murder her child like some kind of ancient Mean Girls alliance gone homicidal. She painted it as a jealous partnership between the childless empress and the fertile concubine, united in their hatred of Wu's rising influence and the emperor's obvious preference for someone who could actually do the job. It was like creating the ultimate palace soap opera, except the ratings were measured in executions instead of viewer numbers. And the season finale involved actual corpses. The court ate it up like it was the juiciest gossip of the dynasty, served with a side of righteous indignation and a garnish of mob justice. Wu played the grieving mother so convincingly that even she almost believed her own performance. Gaozong was devastated, furious, and completely convinced that his wife and favorite concubine were child-murdering witches who probably spent their free time hexing puppies. Wu had everyone's sympathy, the emperor's rage on her side, and two rivals about to be eliminated with one perfectly executed frame job that would make any mob boss weep with professional admiration. Wu convinced Gaozong to launch a full court investigation, which was basically a kangaroo court with her as the prosecution, judge, jury, and probably the court reporter taking minutes. She accused both the Empress and Xiao of practicing witchcraft, because apparently, when you can't produce heirs, you turn to dark magic to eliminate the competition, like ancient China's version of corporate espionage, but with more cauldrons and fewer PowerPoint presentations. Gao Zong ditched the Empress faster than you can swipe left on a dating app when you see "Love's long walks on the beach and my mother lives with me," and banished both women along with the Empress's mother for good measure. Because why not make it a family affair? 1 year later, Wu delivered her second son, Li Xian, which was basically the final checkmate move in the world's most brutal game of political chess. With her rivals eliminated and 2 sons securing the succession like insurance policies with great customer service, Gaozong announced Wu as the new empress. And let me tell you, she wore that crown like it was custom made for her skull by the finest craftsmen in the empire. Her children were positioned as heirs to the throne, and she went from concubine to empress in the most brutally efficient power grab in Chinese history. Basically, the ancient equivalent of a hostile corporate takeover, except instead of stock options, people got execution orders. 1 dead baby, 2 destroyed enemies, and total imperial victory. Sometimes, the queen really does have to sacrifice her own pawn to capture the king. And Wu Zetian played chess like Bobby Fischer with a body count and 0 moral constraints. Oh wait, Wu Zetian didn't tell you what she did to the deposed empress and her beloved Xiao, because the story gets even more delightfully horrific. She ordered their gruesome execution by having their arms and legs cut off and their bodies thrown into vats of wine to drown, because apparently regular execution wasn't dramatic enough. And Wu Zetian believed in making a statement that would echo through history like the world's most terrifying Yelp review. Being empress wasn't about hosting tea parties and looking elegant in ceremonial robes like some kind of ancient Pinterest influencer. It was about managing 50 million people, maintaining diplomatic relationships with neighboring countries who all had trust issues, and making sure the empire didn't collapse into civil war every time someone got their feelings hurt over a trade dispute. Basically, Wu Zetian was the CEO of China Inc., and the shareholders were very demanding, had short attention spans, and occasionally tried to overthrow management. Gaozong was a decent emperor, but he suffered from migraines that would leave him unable to function for days. Basically, ancient China's version of being out of office with a medical excuse, except the office was an entire civilization. When your emperor is incapacitated and lying in bed with a cold compress, someone has to make decisions about trade disputes, natural disasters, and the 1,000 daily crises that come with running a civilization. That someone was Wu Zetian, because apparently she was the only adult in the room who knew how to read a budget report. Wu Zetian started small, handling correspondence like an imperial secretary and taking meetings when Gaozong was out sick with what was essentially the world's most inconvenient chronic condition. But gradually, she evolved from chief of staff to co-CEO, not because she was power hungry. Okay, she was definitely power hungry, but that's beside the point. But because the alternative was governmental paralysis every time her husband had a headache. It was like being the substitute teacher who ends up running the entire school district because the principal keeps calling in sick. The ministers initially resisted her authority, like they were rejecting a software update that would make their lives easier, but hurt their egos. They'd spent their entire careers taking orders from men who couldn't find their own palaces without GPS. And suddenly, they had to defer to a woman who'd started as a concubine but could actually balance a budget. Some tried to go around her, appealing directly to Gaozong like kids tattling to their dad when mom said no to ice cream. Others formed coalitions to limit her influence, which was basically ancient China's version of a workplace conspiracy that everyone could see coming from a mile away. A few suggested she was manipulating the emperor with witchcraft, because apparently being competent and organized was so unusual that it had to be supernatural. Wu Zetian handled their resistance with the efficiency of a tech startup, eliminating competition and the ruthlessness of a mob boss who'd taken business management courses. When they opposed her, they found themselves dead. Amazing how quickly people's financial records became problematic when they opposed Wu Zetian. It was like audit roulette, but the house always won. Between running an empire and eliminating political enemies like items on a particularly vindictive to-do list, the empress somehow found time to produce the next generation of imperial offspring. In 656 came her third son, Li Xian, followed by Princess Taiping in 660, because apparently her reproductive system was as efficient as her political machine. But 660 was also the year that changed everything in ways she couldn't have planned. Like winning the lottery, except the prize was absolute power, and the cost was her husband's cognitive function. Emperor Gaozong suffered debilitating strokes that left him increasingly incapacitated. Gaozong's condition meant someone had to handle the day-to-day operations of running 50 million people who all had opinions and most of them were wrong. And spoiler alert, that someone was Wu Zetian. While he struggled with basic cognitive functions, like remembering what he had for breakfast, she was managing military campaigns, trade disputes, natural disasters, and the general chaos that comes with governing a civilization. It was like being a remote CEO, except her office was the Forbidden City, and her employees included everyone in China. By 660, Wu had been building her secret police network for 30 years. And honey, let me tell you, it had evolved from a useful information-gathering hobby into the surveillance infrastructure of everyone's dystopian nightmares, except with more silk robes and better architecture. Her agents monitored conversations in tea houses like they were moderating Twitter during a political scandal, intercepted private messages faster than the NSA reading your texts, and created a citizen reporting system that would make modern surveillance states take notes and probably ask for consulting fees. Wu established bronze tip boxes throughout the empire where people could anonymously report on their neighbors, basically Yelp reviews, but for treason, and with much more serious consequences than a bad restaurant rating. Want to get back at your annoying neighbor who lets their chickens wander into your yard? Just drop a note saying they criticized imperial policy while drunk at the local tavern. The atmosphere became so paranoid that potential rebels had to assume anyone might be an informant, including their own mothers-in-law, which was probably accurate since mothers-in-law had been collecting dirt on people since the invention of marriage. Wu Zetian retained some absolutely notorious officials to handle the dirty work: Suo Yuanli, Zhou Xing, and Lai Junqin, who were basically her HR department from hell with advanced degrees in creative punishment. These cruel officials were so efficient at their jobs that they even authored a manual of entrapment that detailed conspiracy theories and torture methods with the thoroughness of a WikiHow article titled "How to Destroy Your Political Enemies in 10 Easy Steps." The traditional aristocracy was not amused, but effectiveness beats popularity every single time. In 662, Wu Zetian delivered her fourth and final son, Li Dan, while simultaneously running the empire, because apparently her time management skills were so advanced, she could literally give birth to heirs while birthing policies. Talk about multitasking that would make modern working mothers weep with envy. 5 kids total, which made her both a mother and the ultimate executive who proved you could have it all if you were willing to eliminate anyone who said otherwise. By 665, the pretense was officially over, like taking off a mask at a masquerade party. The emperor and the empress became co-rulers of the empire, known as the Two Saints or Holy Sovereigns, which was basically the ultimate power couple. Think Beyoncé and Jay-Z, but instead of music empires, they had an actual empire with 50 million subjects and significantly more execution authority. Wu Zetian wasn't hiding behind screens anymore, like some kind of imperial Wizard of Oz. She was front and center, making decisions, taking credit where credit was due, and probably enjoying the hell out of it. In 668, the Empress proved she wasn't just good at domestic politics. She could handle international relations too, like a diplomat with a military background and zero patience for nonsense. Her military campaigns reduced Korea to a vassal state, which was basically the ancient equivalent of a hostile corporate takeover, where the target company becomes a subsidiary, whether they like it or not. Korea went from an independent nation to a subsidiary of China Inc., under Wu Zetian's strategic leadership. But the real power move came in 674, when Wu Zetian and Gaozong made their authority literally divine. For over 1,000 years, only male emperors had been allowed to climb to the sacred summit to perform the Feng sacrifice to heaven, while conducting the Shan sacrifice to earth at the mountain's base. Mount Tai was basically the ancient world's most exclusive men's club, making Augusta National Golf Club look inclusive and progressive. And the dress code was strictly no women allowed ever, under any circumstances. The ceremony required them to climb the sacred mountain, where Gaozong would take the title Tian Huang, Emperor of Heaven, and Wu Zetian would become Tian Ho, Empress of Heaven, which was basically claiming they had God's endorsement in a direct line to cosmic customer service. Picture the absolute audacity. Wu wasn't just participating in a ritual that had been forbidden to women for centuries. She was doing it as an equal partner, claiming divine authority alongside her husband, like they were filing a joint tax return with the universe. The conservative ministers were having collective aneurysms that would require medical attention if medical attention had existed beyond drink some herbal tea and pray. Here was this sacred mountain where legendary emperors like Qin Shi Huang had come to prove their worthiness to the gods. And now, a woman, a former concubine, no less, was marching up there to claim equal status with heaven itself. It was the ultimate rebrand, from mortal monarchs to celestial CEO with divine stock options. With her surveillance network in place, like a spider web made of paranoia and government efficiency, and Gaozong increasingly dependent on her like a smartphone user who's forgotten how to read actual maps, the stage was set for the next phase of Wu Zetian's rise to power. But first, she had to deal with some family drama that was about to get messier than a reality TV show reunion special filmed during a tornado. You'd think securing the succession would make Wu Zetian's position safer, but children are like little time bombs wrapped in silk diapers and tied with ribbons of future betrayal. Now, she wasn't just managing current threats like some kind of political air traffic controller. She was raising future competitors who might decide mommy's power was cramping their style and needed to be corrected like a bad homework assignment. Wu Zetian's son's education became another battlefield. Except instead of fighting over territory, she was fighting over their minds. And the stakes were whether they'd grow up to respect her authority or try to mansplain empire management to the woman who literally invented their job descriptions. Traditional court factions wanted to raise them as conventional princes, surrounded by tutors who would teach them that women should be decorative and silent like expensive furniture, and that their mother's success was an embarrassing aberration to be corrected as soon as they hit puberty and discovered they had opinions. Wu Zetian had different lesson plans in mind. Like a helicopter parent with an army and nuclear launch codes, she chose their tutors like she was casting a movie where the plot was how to not overthrow your mother when you grow up and realize you technically outrank her. These boys would learn that competence mattered more than gender, that effective leadership required results over ideology, and that disrespecting their mother was a career-limiting move. Literally, as in your career might end along with your pulse. Crown Prince Li Hong grew up smart, capable, and appropriately grateful for his mother's achievements, like a well-adjusted child who sends thank you cards and remembers Mother's Day without being reminded. but he also developed his own ideas about governance, some of which conflicted with Wu Zetian's vision, like a teenager who thinks they know better than their parents about literally everything. As he reached his 20s, Li Hong started attracting advisors who whispered sweet, treasonous nothings in his ear, suggesting that maybe it was time for traditional male leadership. You know, the kind that had been so spectacularly mediocre before his mother took charge. The ungrateful little shit was basically planning to #MeToo his own mother out of power. Except instead of inappropriate workplace behavior, it was inappropriate competence while female. In 675, Li Hong died suddenly at age 23, which was either the worst timing in imperial history or the most convenient, depending on your perspective and your relationship with a grieving mother who happened to control the empire's poison supply. Now, Wu Zetian could dance around this like historians do, talking about mysterious illnesses and convenient timing, like they're describing a particularly suspicious episode of CSI Ancient China. But let's be real. She poisoned her own son like a mama bear who realized her cub was planning to eat her face. Yes, you heard that correctly. And no, there's no gentle way to put it. When your heir apparently starts thinking he can sideline the woman who literally built the empire he's supposed to inherit, like a trust fund kid who wants to fire his parents from their own company, sometimes mother knows best means mother knows poison. And Wu Zetian was always an excellent student of chemistry. Gaozong was so devastated by his son's death that he posthumously honored Li Hong with the title Emperor Xiaojing, which was sweet in that grieving father trying to honor his dead child way, but didn't change the fact that Wu Zetian had eliminated another threat to her authority with the efficiency of a CEO downsizing a problematic department. Sometimes the queen has to eat her own pieces to protect the crown, and Wu Zetian played chess like Bobby Fischer if Bobby Fischer had been willing to sacrifice his own family members for strategic advantage and had access to untraceable medieval toxins. Wu Zetian's second son, Li Xian, stepped into his dead brother's role like he was inheriting a corner office instead of a throne built on his mother's strategic corpses. And honey, let me tell you, this kid brought all the traditional masculine entitlement you'd expect from someone who'd been told his whole life that having a Y chromosome was basically a golden ticket to world domination and a PhD in how things should really work. He was more conservative than a Fox News comment section during a culture war, more influenced by court advisors who viewed women's power like a computer virus that needed immediate quarantine and maybe an exorcism for good measure. Meanwhile, the emperor's health was declining faster than an influencer's relevance after a scandal involving crypto scams and fake charity donations. Gaozong was basically running on fumes and imperial stubbornness at this point, which everyone could see except possibly Gaozong himself. The court was watching and calculating like paparazzi waiting for a celebrity meltdown, except instead of photographing wardrobe malfunctions, they were positioning themselves for the ultimate regime change photo op. Everyone understood Gaozong's death was approaching faster than a viral meme about cats, and succession planning was about to get spicier than a Kardashian family dinner where everyone's fighting over the will and somebody's dating their sister's ex. The big question everyone was whispering about: would Wu Zetian gracefully step aside and let her son rule with appropriate male advisors, telling him what to do like a good little traditional Empress Dowager? Absolutely fucking not. Would she accept the customary role of Empress Dowager? Influential, but ultimately just another pretty face in the background? Like a retired CEO who gets to cut ribbons at company picnics? Please. Wu Zetian didn't climb this ladder just to voluntarily jump off the roof and watch some inexperienced kid destroy everything she built. If you've been paying attention to Wu Zetian's career trajectory so far, you already know exactly how she felt about traditional roles. The same way a shark feels about becoming a vegetarian. In 680, Li Xian made the fatal mistake of thinking he could outmaneuver the woman who had literally written the playbook on political assassination disguised as family planning. The audacious little shit had been attracting conservative advisors who convinced him that mommy's extended reign was an embarrassment that needed correcting. Like Wu Zetian was some kind of system glitch instead of the operating system, keeping this entire empire running, while everyone else was still trying to figure out how to turn it on. So Wu Zetian did what any reasonable mother would do when her ungrateful child starts plotting a hostile takeover of the family business. She orchestrated the most beautiful frame job in imperial history, like a masterclass in how to destroy your own son's political career while looking like the victim. Step 1. Wu Zetian had her people plant an entire arsenal in Li Xian's palace because apparently her logistics team was more efficient than Amazon Prime. We're talking swords, armor, crossbows, basically enough weapons to outfit a small rebellion or supply a medieval action movie with authentic props. Then, she arranged for her associates to discover this cache during a routine inspection, like finding drugs in someone's locker, except the drugs were enough weaponry to overthrow a government. Amazing how these things just turn up when you have the right people in the right places with excellent timing and flexible morals, isn't it? But wait, there's more! Wu Zetian also needed a murder to really sell this conspiracy theory, because a weapons cache without a body is just poor interior decorating. So she had Ming Chongyan eliminated. And Ming was this respected sorcerer that both Gaozong and Wu Zetian supposedly valued, making him the perfect victim for establishing motive. Then she made sure everyone knew that Li Xian had assassinated him, probably because Ming had discovered the prince's treasonous plans, or maybe because he'd seen too much during a fortune-telling session. The court ate up this narrative like it was the season finale of their favorite drama series, complete with plot twists and character deaths that nobody saw coming. The beauty of this setup was the mathematical perfection that would make a geometry teacher weep with pride. Weapons cache plus murdered advisor plus ambitious prince equals obvious treason conspiracy. Even a Tang Dynasty CSI team would have connected these dots exactly the way Wu Zetian wanted them to, probably while dramatic music played in the background and someone put on sunglasses before delivering a one-liner. When the evidence was presented with all the ceremony of a court trial and the authenticity of a reality TV show, Gaozong, bless his naive heart and failing cognitive functions, wanted to forgive their son. He was ready to chalk it up to youthful ambition and political inexperience, like a dad whose kid got caught shoplifting candy and thinks a stern talking to will fix everything. But Wu Zetian wasn't having any of this fatherly compassion bullshit, because mercy was for people who hadn't spent decades building an empire, one strategic murder at a time. A conspiracy against the emperor cannot be tolerated, Wu Zetian declared, with all the righteous indignation of someone who definitely hadn't just manufactured the entire conspiracy like a criminal mastermind with a law degree and acting experience. She was basically playing the role of the tough but fair CEO who has to fire her own nephew for embezzling from the company, except the embezzlement was completely imaginary and the nephew was her son. And instead of a pink slip, he got exiled with a side of potential assassination. Under Wu Zetian's relentless pressure and flawless acting performance that would have won her an Oscar if Oscars had existed and been given to people who frame their own children, Li Xian was formally accused of treason, stripped of his crown prince title faster than you can delete your browser history when your parents walk in, demoted to commoner status, and exiled to Ba Prefecture, where he could contemplate how badly he had underestimated his mother. Wu Zetian's third son, Li Jie, became the new crown prince, and he was young enough to be properly terrified by what had happened to his brothers. like watching your older siblings get grounded and deciding maybe you should just follow the rules and keep your mouth shut. For a while, this arrangement worked beautifully, like a well-oiled family business where everyone knew their place and nobody questioned the CEO's methods or mortality rate. But as Gao Zong's condition worsened and he started looking more like a prop than an emperor, the new crown prince's advisors started filling his head with the same brilliant ideas that had gotten his brother killed. Because apparently, some people never learn from other people's mistakes, especially when those mistakes involve their own family members ending up dead or exiled. By 683, after decades of careful maneuvering and strategic eliminations that would make a chess grandmaster weep with professional jealousy, Wu Zetian had positioned herself as the real power behind the throne. Except at this point, she was basically the throne, the palace, and the entire governmental infrastructure wearing an emperor costume. But when death finally came for Gao Zong like an overdue library book finally being returned, it was time to drop all pretense and stop pretending she wasn't the one actually running the show. Emperor Gaozong died in December 683. His long battle with declining health finally over like a subscription service that had been auto-renewing for way too long. Wu Zetian was 59 and had been the real CEO of China for nearly 2 decades, which meant she had more executive experience than most people have life experience, and significantly more blood on her hands than your average Fortune 500 leader. Li Ji was officially proclaimed Emperor Zhongzong with all the pomp and ceremony of a corporate promotion. But Wu Zetian retained control of all actual governmental functions, like a helicopter parent who refuses to let their adult child handle their own bank account. He was emperor in name. She was emperor in fact, reality, and practice. Think of it as the ultimate helicopter parenting situation. Except instead of managing a teenager's college applications and micromanaging their dating life, Wu Zetian was managing an empire with 50 million people who all had opinions and most of them were wrong. This arrangement lasted exactly 54 days, shorter than most people's New Year's resolutions, and significantly more explosive than a failed diet plan. Li Jie decided he was tired of being a figurehead who got all the fancy titles but none of the actual decision-making authority, and wanted to assert some real power, like an adult who finally wants to manage their own Netflix password. Big mistake. The kind of mistake that makes you realize your mom isn't just controlling. She's literally willing to destroy your entire career over a disagreement about management style. Wu Zetian forced him to abdicate in February 684 faster than you can say family intervention, exiled him to Ba Prefecture, which was basically the ancient equivalent of Siberia, except with worse food and more scorpions, and replaced him with his brother Li Dan, who became Emperor Ruizong. It was like firing your own son from the family business and immediately hiring his brother for the same position. Except the family business was China, and the HR department consisted entirely of Wu Zetian's personal assassination squad. Oh, and speaking of family cleanup, that would make Marie Kondo nervous. This was also the year Wu Zetian finally dealt with her exiled second son, Li Xian, because apparently her to-do list included resolve outstanding family issues permanently. Remember him? The one she'd beautifully framed for treason back in 680 like a master artist creating a forgery that was somehow more convincing than the original? Well, 4 years in Ba Prefecture hadn't cured his ambition or taught him to appreciate his mother's management style. So Wu Zetian sent him a very special letter with implicit instructions about honorable family dispute resolution. Basically, ancient China's version of, we need to talk, and you won't be talking much longer. He took the hint like a good son who finally understood the family business model. Sometimes the best performance reviews are the final ones, and Wu Zetian believed in thorough documentation. Li Dan was much more amenable to the arrangement where he got the title, and Wu Zetian made the decisions, like a CEO who's perfectly happy to let the board chairwoman handle all the actual work while he focuses on looking imperial and not getting murdered. He understood that survival in their family required recognizing the actual power structure, regardless of what the organizational chart said or what his official business cards claimed, but to ensure that he behaved properly and didn't get any bright ideas about actual leadership. Wu Zetian put him under virtual house arrest in the inner palace while she ruled, basically grounding your adult son, except the grounding involves luxury accommodations and the very real possibility that poor behavior might result in creative poisoning, rather than loss of Xbox privileges. For 7 years, Wu Zetian had ruled through puppet emperors like a master ventriloquist, whose dummies happened to wear crowns and occasionally tried to develop their own opinions. But by 690, she was done playing games that everyone could see through anyway. At 67, it was time for the ultimate power move, the kind that makes people either bow down in awe or start updating their wills, depending on their relationship with the new management. On October 16, 690, Wu Zetian finally dropped all pretense like a mic at the end of the world's most brutal performance and forced Emperor Ruizong to abdicate faster than a CEO stepping down after a major scandal. At 67 years old, she declared herself Emperor Zetian and established the Zhou dynasty to replace the Tang. Like hostile corporate takeover meets divine intervention, with a side of, "I've been running this place for decades anyway, so let's make it official." She was officially the oldest person ever crowned emperor in Chinese history, proving that experience beats youth like a seasoned wine beats grape juice. Wisdom beats pretty faces like a chess master beats a checkers player. And that menopause gives you superpowers that nobody warned you about in any of the ancient health scrolls. Wu Zetian didn't just change dynasties like switching phone carriers. She rebranded the entire empire like a tech startup, pivoting their business model after realizing their original plan was amateur hour. The state went from Tang to Zhou, or Tianzhou, meaning granted by heaven, because apparently heaven had finally gotten around to returning her calls and approving her promotion request. She moved the capital to Luoyang and renamed it Chengdu, or Divine Capital, basically giving China a complete makeover while putting all remaining Tang Dynasty royal family members under house arrest like contestants on a reality show who'd been voted off but weren't allowed to leave the compound. It was the ultimate corporate restructuring, except instead of laying off middle management and offering severance packages, Wu Zetian was imprisoning an entire bloodline and calling it job security. The audacity was breathtaking, like watching someone parallel park a semi-truck in a compact car space while maintaining perfect eye contact. The execution was flawless, smoother than a diplomatic lie, and more efficient than a German manufacturing process. The historical impact was legendary. The kind of legendary that makes historians argue for centuries about whether to be impressed or terrified, usually settling on both. Some officials accepted Wu Zetian's imperial promotion as long overdue recognition of reality, like finally admitting that the person who's been doing the CEO's job should probably get the CEO's title and salary. Others treated it like she declared herself a unicorn, technically impossible, according to natural law, traditional precedent, and everything they thought they knew about how the universe was supposed to work. Wu Zetian dealt with the second group the way you deal with any IT problem. Systematic troubleshooting, followed by permanent deletion, except instead of turning it off and on again, she turned them off permanently and replaced them with people who understood that the new operating system was called Wu Zetian is Emperor Now, and it wasn't optional software. The 690s were Wu Zetian's innovation decade, like a tech entrepreneur who'd finally gotten venture capital funding and unlimited creative control over disrupting an entire civilization. She commissioned the creation of the Great Cloud Sutra, positioning herself as the reincarnation of Maitreya Buddha. Essentially, convincing everyone she was literally divine, which was the ultimate personal branding campaign and made arguing with her policies technically blasphemous. It was like getting a religious endorsement deal, except instead of promoting energy drinks, she was promoting her own divinity and right to rule everything forever. Wu Zetian promoted Buddhism over the Tang dynasty's traditional support for Taoism because when you're establishing a new dynasty, you need a new religious aesthetic to match your corporate rebrand, like changing your company colors and logo. Except the logo was an entire belief system, and the company was China. Wu Zetian revolutionized the civil service system like she was disrupting a centuries-old industry that had been running on nepotism and good old boy networks since the invention of government corruption. Instead of hiring people because their great-grandfather was somebody important or because they looked good in ceremonial robes, she hired people who could actually do the jobs. What a radical concept in a world where qualifications usually meant knows which fork to use at state dinners. Merit-based promotions instead of nepotism was like introducing performance reviews to a workplace that had been promoting people based on astrology and family connections. Wu Zetian hired many women for positions that had always been men's jobs because she'd figured out that competence doesn't have a gender requirement. Shocking revelation that would take the rest of the world several more centuries to discover. She required military officers to pass examinations for advancement, which was basically introducing standardized testing to people whose previous qualification was, can swing sword good and comes from military family. It was like making football coaches prove they actually understand the game instead of just inheriting the position, because their dad used to coach. Wu Zetian's economic policies focused on agricultural development with the precision of a Silicon Valley growth strategy and the practicality of someone who understood that empires run on food, not just good intentions and fancy palaces. She reduced taxes on farmers like a politician who actually wanted to get reelected by people who grew the food, invested in agricultural education because apparently teaching people how to farm better was more effective than just hoping for good weather, and built irrigation systems like ancient China's version of infrastructure investment. She even redistributed land like she was running a medieval UBI program, except instead of universal basic income, it was universal basic farmland. Wu Zetian compiled an agricultural manual titled Record of the People's Primary Occupation, which was basically the ancient equivalent of publishing a best-selling business book about sustainable growth and worker productivity. In 695, Wu Zetian changed the name of her reign like a celebrity rebranding after a scandal and officially ended the tradition of sovereigns sacrificing in person to sacred peaks. Because at that point, she was basically too divine to need validation from mountains or any other geological features. It was like a rock star who'd gotten so famous they didn't need to audition for venues anymore. The mountains should be honored that she even acknowledged their existence, not the other way around. Wu Zetian's personal life during this period was deliciously scandalous, like a reality TV show that historians would be analyzing for centuries while clutching their academic pearls. She had a series of lovers, which horrified the court, but was actually completely normal behavior for Chinese emperors. The kind of normal that had been standard operating procedure for male rulers since the invention of absolute power and flexible moral standards. The difference was that male emperors' multiple partners were seen as natural virility displays, proof of their masculine dominance and divine favor, like collecting trophies, except the trophies were people. Wu Zetian's lovers were evidence of moral corruption and unfitness to rule, because apparently, when women do exactly the same thing men have been doing for millennia, it becomes a scandal worthy of impeachment. The double standard was more obvious than a fake designer handbag at a luxury boutique, and about as subtle as a neon sign advertising hypocrisy. Wu Zetian particularly enjoyed promoting some of her boy toys to important government positions, because why not combine business with pleasure when you're running an empire and have unlimited appointment power. The court conservatives couldn't decide whether to be more outraged by her romantic relationships or her willingness to advance men based on personal criteria, like being faced with two equally offensive menu options and not being able to choose which one disgusted them more. In 697, Wu Zetian made what historians consider her biggest mistake, like a chess grandmaster who'd been winning for decades and then moved her queen into an obvious trap. She took two court entertainers, the Zhang brothers, Zhang Yizhi and Zhang Changzong, as her lovers. These weren't just romantic partners who looked good in silk and knew how to make conversation. They became her gatekeepers, controlling access to her like bouncers at the world's most exclusive nightclub. Except the nightclub was the Chinese government, and the cover charge was your political career. The Zhang brothers were like that couple who gets too much influence in your friend group and starts making decisions for everyone, while slowly poisoning the entire social dynamic. Their corruption became so blatant that even Wu Zetian's most loyal supporters started questioning her judgment, like watching your best friend date someone who's obviously terrible for them, while everyone else can see the relationship is a disaster waiting to happen. 8 years later, court officials led by Zhang Jianji launched what they called the Shenlong coup, which sounds like a martial arts movie, but was actually just a very efficient government overthrow with better branding. They mobilized imperial guards, executed Wu Zetian's two lover boys with the efficiency of a corporate downsizing, and forced the 80-year-old emperor to abdicate in favor of her exiled son, who was restored as Emperor Zhongzong. The coup was swift, efficient, and absolutely devastating to Wu Zetian's ego. After 15 years as emperor and 50 years as the real power in Chinese government, longer than most people's entire careers, Wu Zetian was finally outmaneuvered by people who had learned their tactics from watching her eliminate her own enemies. The irony was not lost on Wu Zetian. She was destroyed by the same family dynamics and political maneuvering that had brought her to power in the first place, like a snake eating its own tail, except the snake was centuries of Chinese imperial politics, and the tail was her own revolutionary career. Sometimes the student really does surpass the master, especially when the master gets distracted by attractive young men and forgets that everyone else is still playing the same deadly game she'd been winning for half a century. Wu Zetian died on December 16th, 705, just 9 months after being deposed, which was either the world's most coincidental timing or exactly what you'd expect from a political system that had learned efficiency from the master herself. The timing was suspiciously convenient for the new government, given her family's extensive history with deaths that happened to solve political problems at exactly the right moment, like a cosmic customer service department that specialized in removing inconvenient former emperors. She was 81 years old and had spent 6 decades at the center of Chinese political power, which was longer than most civilizations managed to exist, let alone individual people managed to stay relevant and terrifying. Wu's memorial tablet was left blank with no inscription, whether by her own choice as the ultimate power move or her successors' desperate attempt to erase her from history, like deleting embarrassing photos from social media, remains debated by historians who probably stay up too late arguing about ancient Chinese political drama. But you can't erase results with wishful thinking and historical revisionism, and Wu Zetian's results spoke louder than any monument could ever scream, even if that monument was the size of a mountain and equipped with surround sound. During Wu Zetian's rule, China became one of the world's great powers, like a startup that goes from garage operation to global domination while everyone else is still figuring out their business plan. The population grew like a successful social media platform. The economy boomed harder than cryptocurrency during a bull run. Infrastructure improved like a city that finally hired competent urban planners. And the government ran smoother than a perfectly curated Instagram feed with professional photographers and unlimited editing apps. Sure, her systematic elimination of rivals, including her own kids, was ruthless enough to make a Game of Thrones episode look like a Disney movie where everyone learns valuable lessons about friendship and nobody gets murdered for political convenience. But here's the tea that historians have been trying to water down for centuries. Wu Zetian broke the ultimate glass ceiling in a society that believed women were as capable of leadership as cats are, of following instructions, or goldfish are of managing investment portfolios. Wu Zetian proved that women could lead just as effectively as men. They just had to be twice as good to get half the credit, 10 times as ruthless to keep anyone from questioning their authority, and willing to eliminate family members who got too ambitious about traditional gender roles. When her enemies finally managed to remove her from power, like a particularly difficult software update, they kept most of her reforms because, plot twist, they actually worked better than anything the boys had come up with during centuries of traditional leadership that had mostly involved looking impressive while the empire ran itself into the ground. The real measure of Wu Zetian's success? It took a coalition of her smartest enemies working overtime like a team of consultants trying to solve an impossible problem. And even then, they could only pull it off when she was 80, physically deteriorating and distracted by attractive younger men who turned out to be more interested in corruption than competent governance. For over 50 years, Wu Zetian outplayed every rival who tried to come for her crown like a chess master, competing against people who were still learning which pieces moved in which directions. History doesn't remember the women who played it safe, who waited for permission like customers in a really slow bureaucratic office, or who accepted "that's just how things are" as an answer to systemic inequality. History remembers the ones who said, "Watch me," and made it impossible to look away, like a performance so compelling that even people who hated the performer couldn't stop watching to see what happened next. Power isn't given like a participation trophy. It's taken like everything else worth having. And once you take it, never give it back, because the people who want to take it from you definitely won't be asking nicely. Don't forget to subscribe for the next royal plot.